was never introduced with trumpets. In the oldest tales, she arrives like winter arriving, quietly, inevitably, with a calm that does not ask permission. They say she is Loki's daughter, and that alone makes most listeners lean closer, because Loki's blood always means a story that turns in unexpected ways. But Hel is not Loki. She does not chase laughter. She does not bargain with chaos. She holds something heavier, the place where motion ends. Her kingdom is described as lying downward and northward, a realm bound to cold mists and deep stillness. Some call it hell. Some describe it through Niflheim, the mist world beneath a root of Yggdrasil, where endings gather without spectacle. And here is what makes hell perfect for a sleep story. She is not the screaming fire of punishment. She is a quiet administration of what remains, a careful keeper of the dead who did not fall in battle. In later Icelandic writing, Odin appoints her to rule the realm that bears her name, giving her authority over the dead who come to her. The appointment is not described like a war. It is described like a placement. One piece set into the cosmic structure so the whole can hold. Hel's appearance is sometimes described as divided, part living color, part deathly shade. Yet even that detail feels less like horror and more like symbol, a reminder that her nature is the meeting line between what breathes and what no longer needs to. In the world above, people fear what they cannot see. But in the Norse imagination, the dead are not erased. They are placed. Hel's halls are not described as a single room. They are a domain with boundaries and thresholds, and an order that continues long after a mortal name is no longer spoken. The dead do not come to Hel because she is cruel. They come because the cosmos has more than one kind of afterlife, and not every ending is meant to be a battlefield song. If you listen closely, you can feel why this is compelling. Valhalla is loud, proud, bright with weapons. Hel's realm is the opposite. Quiet, steady, almost domestic in its stillness. A place where the dead are not celebrated, yet also not chased. In one of the most famous stories, the gods themselves are forced to face Hel's rules. Baldr, the beloved, dies, and he goes to Hel. The grief of the gods becomes a kind of weather, spreading across everything, and they send a rider to bargain with the Queen of the Dead. In the sources, the journey to Hel is described as a ride down and north, toward the Hel-road, toward the still country where ordinary momentum fails. There is no rushing there. Even the desperate hurry of grief must slow to match the realm it enters. Hermoder rides, often on Sleipnir in the prose Edda tradition, and the tale lingers on thresholds, bridges, roads, questions asked by watchers who do not shout. They do not need to. In Hel's country, certainty speaks softly. When Hel finally appears in the story, the moment does not explode. It settles. Hel does not plead. She does not threaten. She states conditions. This is what makes her terrifying to gods. Not claws, not flames, but calm authority. A ruler who will not be impressed by power, because all power eventually becomes quiet here. condition she sets is famously simple. Baldr may return only if all things weep for him, not some things, all things. A rule like that is not cruelty. It is a test of completeness. It asks whether love is truly universal or only convenient, and because one being refuses, the bargain fails. The story is not just tragedy. It is a reminder. Some endings cannot be reversed because the world is not fully willing to undo them. That is Hel's lesson, whispered in myth. Loss is not always solved by strength. Sometimes it is held by structure. Even Ragnarok, the great storm of endings, does not erase Hel from the map. The poems speak of signs rising from many realms, including the halls of Hel, signals that the cycle is turning again. Hel remains part of the cosmic machinery, even at the edge of collapse. So tonight, as you rest, I want you to imagine Hel not as a villain, but as a quiet door, not a door that punishes, a door that closes gently behind what is finished, so what is living can keep living. In this story, you are not asked to fear her realm. You are asked to understand it. Because sleep, too, is a small descent, not into danger, into stillness. The Hel-road is not a path you choose. In the poems, it appears when movement has already slowed, when breath has softened and urgency is dissolved. It is said to run downward and northward, not because it is evil, but because endings naturally sink like snow settling into valleys. Those who walk it feel no wind, only the steady pull of inevitability. Travelers on this road are not chased. They are not hurried. Their steps lengthen, then lighten, as though gravity itself has grown patient. The living imagine fear here, yet the sources speak instead of quiet recognition. This road exists so the dead do not wander, so stillness has a direction. Along the Hel-road stands a bridge, described in later texts as Hel-road, arching over cold waters that do not roar. The bridge does not sway. It waits. Its stones are pale, worn smooth by countless crossings, each one unmarked by struggle. No banners hang there. No torches burn. At the bridge stands a watcher. In some tellings, she is called Modguder, not a monster, but a guardian whose task is memory. She asks questions not to deny passage, but to confirm it. Names are spoken softly. Death is verified, not judged. The living cannot pass because they still cling. Her motor's ride is remembered here, not for speed, but for restraint. Even Sleipnir slows, hooves touching stone without echo. The silence is not threatening. It is administrative. The cosmos, briefly pausing to check its own balance. Beyond the bridge, the air thickens, not with darkness, but with density. Sound fades, thoughts stretch, souls feel lighter, as if weight belonged only to breath. This is where fear usually expects punishment, yet punishment does not arrive. Instead, order appears. Hel's realm does not begin with a throne. It begins with acceptance. acceptance. Those who pass the bridge feel something loosen. Roles fall away, titles fade. Warrior, farmer, child, none matter here. Only what remains when striving ends. The myths never describe screaming crowds or chains. They describe arrival. This is why Hel is feared by gods, not because she destroys, but because she does not negotiate with denial. The Hel-road teaches the first rule of stillness. Nothing can move forward while pretending it has not ended. And as the road continues northward, the halls of Hel come closer, not looming, not glowing, simply present. A place prepared long before any soul knew it would need rest. Sleep understands this road. Every night, you walk a small version of it, not toward loss, but toward release. And Hel waits, not to claim you, only to hold what has finished moving. Hel's hall is never described as vast, yet it never feels small. It is a place where sound settles instead of bouncing, where footsteps do not announce themselves. The sources speak of a hall roofed and ordered, not ruined, not chaotic. This is important. Hel does not rule decay. She rules containment. Those who enter notice first the absence of urgency. No one waits to be called. No one competes for attention. The hall receives rather than summons. Souls drift into their places as if remembering where they belong, even if they never knew before. Hel herself is not always visible. She does not preside constantly from a seat. Her authority is felt in the way everything remains where it should. Like gravity, her presence does not need spectacle. It functions. When she does appear, the texts are careful. They do not rush to describe beauty or terror. They mention balance. Her form reflects division, yes, but not violence. One side carries the color of life remembered. The other carries the stillness of what no longer requires warmth. This duality is not punishment. It is honesty. In Hel's hall, memories surface gently, not as judgment, but as residue. A life does not replay itself. It settles. Regrets soften. Triumphs lose their sharp edges. What mattered remains, but without noise. This is why Helheim frightens warriors more than flames. There is no glory here, no audience, no applause, only the quiet truth of having been. The myths never describe Hel shouting commands. They describe her speaking once and being obeyed forever. Here, even gods lower their voices, not out of fear, but respect. Sleep mirrors this hall. When you drift deeply enough, thoughts stop performing. They simply exist, then fade. That is Hel's gift, a place where nothing demands continuation, and so the hall remains, unchanged through ages. A reminder that rest is not emptiness, but completion. When Baldr died, the sound of grief traveled farther than his body ever did. The myths describe the god's sorrow as something that pressed upon the world itself. Light dimmed, voices lowered. Even Odin felt the weight of what had happened, because Baldr was not merely loved, he was harmony made visible, Baldr's journey did not lead to Valhalla. It led downward and northward along the Hel-road. This alone unsettled the gods. A death so gentle, a figure so bright, resting in Hel's realm felt like a contradiction they could not accept. So Odin sent Hermodr to plead, not to fight, not to threaten, to ask. Hermodr arrived in Hel's domain and spoke Baldr's name, and Hel listened. She did not interrupt. She did not react. When he finished, she answered with a condition that was simple, complete, and unyielding. If all things wept for Baldr, she said, he could return. Not gods alone, not mortals alone, all things. The rule was not cruel. It was precise. Hel governs stillness, and stillness cannot be undone by partial longing. If even one thing remained unmoved, then Baldr's place among the living could not be restored. The gods rushed to fulfill the condition. Stones wept, trees bent, metal softened, but one voice refused, quietly, stubbornly, and the rule held. Hel did not celebrate. She did not gloat. She closed the matter. This is Hel's deepest lesson. Even love must respect structure. Sleep knows this rule. You cannot force rest by wanting it. It arrives only when everything inside you is ready to let go. And so Baldr remained, not imprisoned, but placed, held in stillness until the world itself changes. Not all who arrive in Hel's realm are remembered by songs. Most come quietly, unnamed by poets, unmarked by legend. The myths remind us that Hel rules not heroes, but the many, those whose lives ended without spectacle, whose deaths were ordinary, whose stories were small yet complete. These souls do not wait for judgment. They are not questioned, tested, or weighed. They simply arrive, and the realm receives them. Hel's kingdom is often misunderstood as a place of sorrow, yet the sources suggest something else. Release. The dead here no longer strain against time. Hunger fades. Fear dissolves. Desire loosens its grip. What remains is awareness without urgency. In Hel's domain, the dead do not sleep as the living do. They rest in a state beyond fatigue. Their thoughts slow until thought itself becomes unnecessary. This is not oblivion. It is a quieter form of being. Hel oversees this condition, not as a jailer, but as a custodian. Her task is not to punish endings, but to preserve them. A life that is ended must not be pulled back into motion without reason. Structure protects both the living and the dead. The myths rarely describe rebellion in Hel's realm. There is nothing to escape from, nothing promised beyond it. Sleep understands this truth. True rest is not something you wake up from unchanged. It alters you gently, the way Hel alters those who enter her care. And so, the quiet population of Helheim remains, not forgotten, not erased, simply finished. Beneath the world tree, Yggdrasil, there are roots that do not reach toward light. One of them stretches downward into mist and cold, into the quiet depth where Hel's realm rests. The myths describe this root not as diseased or broken, but as necessary. Without it, the tree would not stand. Hel's domain is bound to this root, not feeding on decay, but anchoring the cosmos. Death in Norse thought is not the enemy of life. It is the weight that keeps life from floating apart. From this depth, Hel feels the tremors of the worlds above. Wars, oaths, betrayals. She senses them as vibrations, not events. She does not intervene. She records. Balance requires memory. It is said that rivers flow through Hel's lands, cold and slow, carrying what time has worn smooth. These waters do not drown. They cool. Souls who pass near them feel their sharpest edges soften, like stone shaped by patient current. Even Odin respects this boundary. He may walk many worlds, but Hel's authority is not challenged. She was given her realm, and she keeps it quietly. Sleep mirrors this root beneath the mind. Deep rest is not light. It is descent. And when you drift far enough down, supported by stillness, you are held. The way Hel holds the root of the world. There are moments in the myths when even the gods fall quiet. These moments do not belong to battle or celebration. They belong to realization. Hel presides over these silences, not because she causes them, but because she understands what they mean. The gods fear Ragnarok not only for its destruction, but for what follows. Hel's realm does not disappear in that storm. The dead do not rise into chaos. They remain where structure has placed them. Even at the end of cycles, Hel's order persists. Some poems hint that Hel watches Ragnarok without alarm. The ending of worlds is not unfamiliar to her. She does not resist change, but she does not rush it either. Endings must arrive in their own time. This is why Hel is often absent from heroic tales. She does not need to be present to be powerful. Her influence is felt when voices stop demanding answers. Sleep carries the same lesson. True rest begins when the mind stops arguing with itself, when even ambition grows quiet. Hel does not claim attention. She receives what has finished speaking, and in that reception, the universe exhales. Mercy in Hel's realm does not arrive as warmth. It arrives as consistency. The myths never say Hel comforts the dead with words. She comforts them by ensuring nothing unexpected will happen again. No sudden loss, no sharp reversals, no demands. This steadiness is her gentlest gift. Souls who enter Helheim quickly learn that nothing will be taken from them anymore. Not effort, not hope, not fear. What remains is allowed to remain undisturbed. Hel's mercy is often mistaken for indifference, but indifference would be careless. Her realm is precise. Every boundary is maintained so that the dead do not drift back into longing. Longing belongs to the living. In Hel's care, longing slowly dissolves into memory, and memory into quiet presence. The cold of Helheim is not meant to punish. It preserves. Like frost sealing the ground, it keeps what is finished from rotting into chaos. This is why hell is trusted with endings. Sleep understands cold mercy, a cool room, a quiet night, no interruptions. Rest does not need warmth to be kind. Sometimes it needs stillness. Hell is often described as still, but she is never idle. Waiting in her realm is an action. She waits because the universe moves in cycles, and every cycle must complete itself without interference. To interrupt an ending too early would fracture what comes next. In the myths, hell is patient with gods and mortals alike. She does not answer prayers quickly, not because she ignores them, but because timing matters more than desire. What is meant to return will return. What is meant to rest must remain. Some souls linger near the edges of her domain, not resisting, simply unfinished. Hell does not rush them inward. She allows them their pause. The dead, like the living, sometimes need time to understand that motion has ended. This is hell's quiet wisdom. Nothing transitions cleanly without waiting. Some souls linger near the edges of her domain, not resisting, simply unfinished. Hell does not rush them inward. She allows them their pause. The dead, like the living, sometimes need time to understand that motion has ended. This is hell's quiet wisdom. Nothing transitions cleanly without waiting. Sleep reflects this truth. You cannot force the moment of falling asleep. You hover at the edge until readiness arrives on its own. Hell waits with you, not watching closely, simply present. Hell does not close her realm at the end of stories. She leaves it open because endings are not walls. They are resting places. When the myths fall silent, hell remains exactly as she was, steady, unmoved, present beneath the turning worlds. The dead do not fade in her care. They simply stop striving. Time loosens its grip, and identity becomes lighter, like breath that no longer needs lungs. In this way, hell is not the opposite of life. She is its completion. The Norse myths never give her a dramatic farewell. No final confrontation, no overthrow. Because hell is not meant to be defeated. She is meant to remain when noise ends. And now, as this story slows, you may notice the same quiet settling within yourself. Thoughts drifting, edges softening, the need to follow dissolving. This is hell's realm touching yours, not to claim, only to calm. The road northward does not end. It circles gently, like breath returning to silence. And so, the Queen of the Quiet Dead waits, as she always has, while the world above continues to move. Rest here. There is nothing else you need to do.